world is fire and blood.
Everything is dependent on oil.
Killing for gasoline.
World is almost out of water. Water.
Now there's the water wars.
Here they come again. Everybody's gone out of their mind. You're not the only one, Max.
Out here, everything hurts. You want to get through this? Do as I say. Now pick up what you can and run.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Your name?
Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to GeekFest Rants. My name is Carlos Perone, and joining me, I have James. Say hi, James.
Hello, hello.
Well, this is a show we've been promising you for quite a little bit of time. We've touched upon it as a coming soon type of movie a while back. And most recently, we did a kind of like a Mad Max retrospective of all the three films, the actual Mad Max trilogy.
I've been waiting for this show since 1985.
And it's funny because this is the 30th anniversary of the last time we saw Mad Max,
That's right.
Yeah, the character. And we're talking about Mad Max Fury Road right now. Now, as we mentioned before, we kind of knew that this was kind of percolating out there for many years, apparently. From, the more I hear about it now, the more amazing of a story it is.
Yeah, it's like 15, maybe more years.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, probably since the 90s, the late 90s, that they kind of got the bug that they wanted to revive this character and revive this franchise. And it kind of went through apparently many incarnations of, possibilities of how they could make this movie. And from what I'm hearing now, it's like they were writing storyboards and they were almost like writing comic book versions of the story just to kind of get an idea of which way to go. Now, I'm talking about, this is way back when they were actually considering having Mel Gibson return as Mad Max.
Yeah.
Which, because of many reasons, obviously the time passed, it was way too much time. The man has aged somewhat.
And he had some problems. He had those problems.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Most notably, I imagine the backlash that he got from his personal issues with his marriage and his police and his...
He's still Mel and he's still talented, but he posed a risk for people who would be backing with money or a studio release. It's not as simple as just saying, hey, we've got an older actor. It's unfortunately we have an older actor who's had a history with the public that isn't positive.
Right. And it wasn't just like imaginary in terms of it did have a negative effect on his career, I believe.
Yeah.
For the last, I don't know how many years I could say, maybe the last 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 years, he's been somewhat untouchable. Nobody really wants to, mess with him way too much in a professional manner.
I've met Mel twice, and he's very friendly and very charming. And when I read on TMZ the first blow of what happened, it broke my heart because I really like the man and I like his movies, and it killed me. And there's no coming back from some of the stuff he did. You know, I mean, he's still liked, but it's not forgotten, unfortunately.
Yeah. And even as a director, as his career started to kind of spiral, he was still putting out some pretty good films. He did The Passion of the Christ and he did Apocalypto, which, you know, I really enjoyed, especially Apocalypto. I really, really liked that movie. But it was like, you know, that was it for him in terms of that's when things started to kind of go south for him.
I agree.
Again, for a lot of these reasons, they kind of backed away from Mel Gibson and they started, you know, developing the movie in a different direction. And from what I hear also, that the story also, the plot kept changing and changing and changing, where, you know, it was going to be the original Mad Max and there was going to be a new Mad Max and it was going to be kind of like a passing of the torch type of thing or a side-by-side character. And at a certain point, we got to where we are now, which is still possibly, you know, over 2 years ago, maybe even more, where they kind of decided, all right, it's going to be Tom Hardy. We're going to do it with Tom Hardy. We're not going to do it with Mel. And they started filming this movie. A lot of the articles I've been reading online, and it's like, this is what I think is one of the magic of this movie, is the fact that like a typical great film, I am searching for information and there is not a lot out there. Merchandising doesn't really exist for this movie too much. And stories about how this thing was made, you know, all these different interviews and documentaries that eventually you do end up getting, you know, when they put out the Blu-ray or the DVD, you know, that stuff is kind of trickling in there on YouTube. You can find a couple of interviews here or there from, you know, from the press releases and from you know, the press junkets that they've been doing. And it is, I don't even know how to explain it. Let's start with the trailer because we talked about this trailer before and how hyped up we got. Tell me your initial reaction to the trailer.
Well, I mean, I knew it was coming, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing it, and it was so beautiful to watch, just the way the music, and the one that stands out to me was the one that they're shooting off the colored flares, and in conjunction with the way the music is playing out. And
the one with the classical music, right?
Exactly. It blew my mind. It's like, if this is even half as good as this trailer makes it look, this is going to be some movie. And just watching that over and over again. And there didn't seem to me like an easy to figure out plot. Now, it turns out the plot is the simplest thing about the whole movie. It's very simple, you know, A to B to C. There's not a lot of surprises there. But the way they put that trailer together, that person can teach a class to all these other people, because so many of these other movies have shown so much. I feel like after seeing Ultron, I feel like I saw the whole movie in the trailer. I'm starting to feel that way with the Star Wars stuff. As little as we've seen, I feel like we've seen too much already. And a couple other movies that have really given away too much at the front end. And this just looked beautiful. And it made you, I mean, I was there on the first night because I didn't want to be the guy who didn't go see it. You know, I didn't want of my friends anyway.
Well, off the bat, like you said, the trailer was different. And I remember saying to myself, this is not your standard thing. And the question to me was, is it just the trailer? In other words, is this some kind of marketing scheme that they're giving you this very artsy, weird trailer, and then the movie comes out and the movie's going to be your standard, you know, action film, you know, by the numbers kind of action film. But I am very happy that it's not. The movie to me is exactly what that particular trailer promised us. And that is, it's not a typical movie. The story is not told in a typical manner. One of the things, and you just mentioned about the story is super simple. And there is no twists or, you know, you don't have to be completely trying to figure out what is going. No, they're giving you the elements one by one. And it's basically, they're going in one direction and then they kind of turn around and go back in the other direction. It is that simple of a story, but it is so captivating. The script, or if you could call it the lack of script, which is something that usually hurts movies. When you don't have a lot of exposition, when characters are not telling you a lot about themselves, or in some way you're being able to communicate with your audience what is going on, that usually kills a movie. This movie was done completely different. This movie is kind of like the type of thing that, if you remember, Lucas used to talk about, and people used to say about, he likes to do imagery. He doesn't like to do dialogue. But with Lucas, a lot of times that type of thing hurts him because you get caught with your pants down, basically. You don't have enough material to really give the people what they want. This movie completely succeeds in that type of filmmaking, I think. The dialogue is so minimal. Max probably has 10 lines in the movie. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was amazed, actually, how little he had to say as the star, as the character. But again, that solidifies who he is, like Clint Eastwood.
Exactly.
Like
he's the man with no name.
Snake Plissken. If there's guys of that nature, we're men of action, and we're going to take care of our business, and then goodbye, Charlie. And that's exactly goodbye, Charlize, because that's exactly what he did.
And in a way, I kind of see him a little bit like Indiana Jones in terms of he's not a guy in a tux. He's not James Bond. He is going to get his ass kicked throughout the entire film and somehow manages to pull it off. He is almost like a facilitator. He will help you, whatever the people that are in trouble, he will help those people, but he's not necessarily the guy who wants to help them. He just happens to get involved, and at some point he decides, all right, I'm going to help these people, and he helps them.
It's usually because, as in the other movies, he's trying to get his shoes back. He's trying to get his wagon back. In this case, he's trying to get his blood back in a way. And there's a section of it, like you said, Indiana Jones. It's funny. My friends and I were talking how that beginning was like an Indiana Jones movie. He's running one way through the tunnel, then he's running the other way because they're chasing him the other way. He's jumping, and there's this big, it looks like like some kind of face on the side of the mountain and stuff like that. Yeah. So he's got to figure out an Indiana Jones type of an escape.
But every turn he takes, he gets screwed. They capture him in his car. They wreck his car and steal his car.
That broke my heart.
Then they take him prisoner. Then they're tattooing him and branding him. And then he kind of makes a break for it, and they catch him again, to the point where you're like a third into the movie, and this guy is so screwed beyond belief. He is what I think they call him. He's a blood bag.
He's a blood bag.
They're using him as a bag of blood, basically, to fuel, this other guy who's kind of, polluted from the radiation, I guess. Yeah. He needs these continuous blood transfusions, and that's how it seems to be like a normal thing that this particular group of people are doing. But let's talk a little bit about who the players are here. So, as we mentioned before, Max just kind of stumbles into this whole bizarre tribe of people. What these people are doing, and you have your big bad guy who happens to be the same actor. He's not the same character, from what I understand.
But it's amazing. He is the same actor.
Yes. It's the same actor from the original film.
Yes.
And in this movie, it's almost like Darth Vader. He has all these attachments to his body to kind of keep him somewhat healthy, but you can tell this guy's a wreck. He has been, again, polluted by radiation, but he's got a face mask. You don't see his face, but he's got this weird apparatus on his face, and even his chest is being compressed by other things that are kind of keeping him
I feel like
almost like in shape.
Everything about him has some sort of problem. His offspring, one offspring is in a wheelchair and he's got some sort of problem. The other one is huge man, but I'm not sure if
he's got some kind of face. He's got like a fake jaw or something. He
doesn't have everything together. The whole thing, like he's the daddy figure, but he's got he's got problems.
He's like a warlord, like an African warlord type of guy who's just kind of holding it all together by force, basically.
Yeah, I'll give you some water a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of water. We'll give you a little bit of milk.
Right. He trickles out the water to the people, the peasants down there, who are also, a lot of them are very scarred and mutated. Like you mentioned, he does have a couple of sons, apparently, and one of them, again, and I believe it to an homage to Thunderdome, he's kind of like Master. He's a little guy who's slightly deformed, and he's like in a wheelchair type of guy, but I guess he's very smart or something. I don't know.
He's got a very Eric the Actor look about him, if anybody knows who that is.
Right. And his army, if you will, are this group of younger people, more, men, I guess, in their 20s and 30s, called the War Boys.
They're kind of like, they're his acolytes. They'll do anything for him.
And it's very religious. It's almost like he has them convinced that he's like a prophet that will get them to their promise, whatever bizarro promised land that they concocted, and they're all willing to die. They all want to die for him. They're almost like, it's almost like they're suicide bombers. You know, they go on these missions and they throw themselves, without any concern for their health or safety at the enemy. You know, they're completely out there. So the plot of the movie, again, which is, it's so simple. It's they're going on this trade. In other words, he's sending out this tanker truck, which I believe is carrying munitions.
Well, the tanker truck has...
Or mother's milk or something like that.
Those types of trucks, they have different bladders, let's say. So one section has the fuel pod. Another section is carrying water. Another section might be carrying the milk.
Right.
Or some, and then another is an area where they've almost like a camper type situation.
Right. But I believe the rearmost of the tanker, that ball-shaped rear, is what was carrying fuel. That's why when they blow that thing, it just completely goes sky high. And they're supposed to go to this other town, another kind of warlord who I think might be related to this guy, like a brother of his or something, that is going to exchange fuel for weapons, because these guys apparently are manufacturing their own bullets somehow.
There's something called Gas Town.
Yeah.
That's the other.
And so that's where we meet Furiosa, who's apparently his best driver, and she is Charlize Theron.
Yes.
So we quickly find out that she's driving the truck and she has all these, war boys guarding her because they're afraid, some other tribes might try to attack her.
And they respect her. They know she's the leader on this mission.
Yeah, exactly. And all of a sudden we find out that she changes the plans. The plans are she has taken the warlord's brides, which are these beautiful model-looking women.
Yes.
One of them happens to be very clearly pregnant, and she's kind of liberating them. She's taking them away from him because they're basically sex slaves. Yeah, that's what they are. They're there to reproduce because he wants to have healthy children, and so far he hasn't been able to have healthy children. So all of a sudden she changes his plans. She goes in a different direction, and the war boys that are accompanying her, her escorts, they kind of go along with her because they don't know that she's changing plans. They figure whatever she says goes, so they kind of go with it.
Yeah, they don't quite get it at the moment. There's more to the mission, so they just believe her.
And by the time they kind of realize what's going on, that's when they send out the rest of the crazy army after her, and that's where Max kind of re-enters the movie again. After he got captured and beaten up and branded and just about everything, we see him that they basically hooked him up to the front of one of these crazy cars as a blood bag.
He's a hood ornament.
Right. And he's got this bad guy, at least at first, this young bad guy who's he's just crazy, and he can't wait to die to impress the leader. So the movie is basically half the movie is one gigantic chase in that direction, where Max finally is able to kind of free himself and realizes that he's going to help them out, help them get away from the bad guy. And then the second half of the movie is when they actually reach the destination, they realize the destination is complete crap, and they cannot get to the area, this green promised land, whatever.
It's no longer green anymore. Everything's been destroyed.
It's a swamp. It's a toxic swamp where Furiosa apparently came from, many years ago. So they kind of gather some of the old ladies that are living there, and they go the other way. They're like, all right, well, you know what? The whole army is after us. That means that the fortress is unguarded. So they kind of go the other direction. And again, a second insane chase. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into the plot because that is the plot. That's it. It's a one direction, one way or the other direction. But one of the things I like the best about this film is that they're able to give you a movie that looks really inventive and original, but it's also at the same time an homage to the other ones, to the first three.
A lot of imagery that if you're a fan, you get instantly taken back to those other movies and those other scenes. And if you're not a fan and if you're just stumbling upon this for the first time, it's not too difficult for you to figure out where they're coming and where they're going.
Yeah. So let's go through a few of these. When Max is captured and they're tattooing him on his back, they're putting like stuff like
the type of blood he has and stuff. Yeah.
What kind of blood he has. And it also says something about Road Warrior. You were able to actually see that. It's amazing that they threw it in there. This Max character is wearing the traditional, the cop jacket with the pauldron on.
Yeah.
And he has a leg brace, just like Max, indicating that this guy's been through, I guess, the same type of stuff that our Max has been through. There's a scene where we get to see the little music box. If you remember from Road Warrior, the little kid with the music box, he has one like that too at one point. Petrol is, for whatever bizarre reason, referred to as gasoline. You know, I remember they used to kind of go back and forth, but these are little callbacks. There's nothing insane about it, but they're all there. His classic car, which you said it was a shame that they completely trashed it first. But remember, the car flips over, but then they take the car and they fix it.
Oh, then they take it and they retrofit
then they blow
it
the
into
crap
one
out
of
of it.
Yeah. One thing I noticed, didn't he have a son in the first movie, or was I mistaken?
I believe you're right. In the first movie, it has to do with his wife and son, baby son, I think, being killed by these crazy
This one
gang
had
types.
flashbacks of a daughter.
It appears to be a daughter.
It didn't bother me. It's just something different. I think that, a daughter is more, the imagery is more to a father, you know what I mean? It gets him motivated more, perhaps. So that didn't bother me. I'm pretty sure that was
right.
That was the only difference I noticed.
Again, it's more vague than ever before because at least with Mad Max, you got the whole story. You got the backstory. Here, they're purposely not giving you the backstory because they want to keep it. Like I said, I believe they try to make this man with no name persona. So the less you know about him, the better. Here's something that I really enjoyed that always bothered me. If you remember one of the classic posters for the Road Warrior, you see two profiles of two people and then some trucks in the middle. On one side, you see Max's body because you can tell the uniform he's wearing. Yeah. On the other side, you see what is a crazy tribe gang person. And that gang person is holding what to me looked like a metallic metal robotic arm almost. But in Road Warrior, you never saw that. In other words, a lot of people had
you're right, and that's what Furiosa has. Yeah,
that's exactly what Furiosa has. Is the thing on the poster. People still have those, bows and arrows, little crossbows and stuff like that coming out of their arms and knives and stuff. But I always wanted to see, a full blown, robotic prosthetic almost, and that's exactly what she has. And it's amazing how they did that effect. Thunderdome. We don't see Thunderdome. However, the Warlord's throne room, if you will, when they open up the curtains, you see what looks like to be a cage, a circular, spherical kind of cage that resembles very much what we saw in Thunderdome. We mentioned earlier that, yes, the same actor gets to play two roles, which was great. It's a great little callback. The Lost Boys, the way that they look like shaved heads, white paint all over their chest, and black eyes to kind of resemble skulls. Well, if you remember Thunderdome, one of the Lost Boys was
had
this
that face.
Has that look. It was like one boy that kind of decided to kind of be by himself, and he was kind of being religiously weird. Could it be that these are the descendants of this weird kid? It's very vague, and they're purposely vague. I listened to some interviews with George Miller, and he talks about how this could be maybe 40 years after Thunderdome. This could be another version of telling the story of Mad Max. In other words, Mad Max is a legendary futuristic character, and people just tell stories about him. And this is a way of kind of retelling all the stories we heard before from a different perspective almost. So it's kind of like, again, they're kind of playing games with you in terms of that. Another thing that by listening to some of these interviews that are, again, slowly trickling in, is that apparently the plan is to make a total of 4 films. Now, will they ever get to make 4 films? We'll see. The lead actors are all signed up for it. So what Miller said was that he was hoping to do 2 more as prequels and 1 more as a sequel. So it's like, okay, let's see if they can push it that far. That would be nice. I would love to see stories like that. Maybe we get a backstory to Furiosa. Maybe we get to see a little more of Max's backstory, but obviously it's a Mad Max film.
Well, there was talk of a comic book about Furiosa, and there's actually a comic book coming about other aspects of the whole series. So there's a lot of material going to be out there, and assuming it's accurate, we could have a lot going on in terms of what's happening with this world.
I know. It's like, I haven't seen a film like this. And again, I know it's a different kind of movie, but the last time I felt about a movie the way...
Maybe Prometheus, right?
No, the last time I felt about a movie like I felt about this one was Memento. Okay. It was a movie that gets in your head and doesn't let go of you.
Yeah, I remember us watching that and then afterwards trying to put it together, different things that I might have missed. And the internet was very, very early back then. And I guess Memento came out in like 99 or 2000. And there wasn't as many, like right now there's tons of web information on any movie that you're going to see before it even comes out. That one, I remember going to something that it's almost like somebody's bulletin board and them explaining what was going on and what the proper order, what you might have missed and stuff.
And that was also the beginning of the viral sites. They were experimenting with viral sites where they would give you these weird places where you would have to go and click on things. But don't get me wrong, this isn't this kind of movie. But what I'm saying is that effect that it has on me is like that. It's a movie that it's in your head and it just, I want to see this movie again because I felt like there was so much more that I wanted to capture with the movie. There's a character, you remember him, that is in a huge vehicle with drums and gigantic speakers, and his only purpose is to play a guitar that throws a flamethrower. And it's kind of like they bring him on to battle to kind of psych the troops out.
And I read that was a throwback because in history, a lot of people would have, like a lot of armies would have,
the drums and the
musical group of people, like even the Patriots had, the drum and fife crew.
Exactly. And you could also say it's another throwback to Thunderdome. This crazy guy is attached by these bungee cords and he keeps hopping and flying forward and back into it. He gets to a point where he starts fighting, I think, with Max. But it's just so insane. And they have another thing where these guys are attached to these poles that are being counterbalanced by engines, and the poles.
It's almost like, hey,
in.
You have a special skill? Well, we can work into our battle plan.
And these poles, they kind of ride next to another car or vehicle, and they dip in and they grab the people and they yank them back out. And it's like, I think I told you this before. I watched the movie. I saw it in 3D, which I'm glad I did. And again, it's not distracting 3D. They do throw a couple of quick, very stereotypical 3D shots where something is flying right at you. But I think they did it on purpose just to say, here's your 3D. Here you go. But anyway, I was watching this movie and I was probably about 30, 40 minutes into it where I'm watching and I'm like, what's going on in my, something's wrong with my jaw, my mouth. I had my mouth open for the whole 30, 40 minutes like an idiot with my mouth wide. Like I was like, what the hell is going on here? And it was just, I never had an experience like this watching a movie. It's an art film in a way. It is not a normal film. Things look horrific and beautiful at the same time. Colors. The thing that I mentioned on the trailer, I remember I was talking to you about it, that they're doing something with colors here. They're juxtapositioning colors where things are happening. Those fireworks are exploding with different colors so they can signal each other. The look of the sand is not normal sand. They tweak the color so it looks more orange than it is. Again, it's like I have to see this movie again because there's so much I think I probably missed, even though I'm rambling like a maniac. How about you?
Well, I had a friend who saw it on a special screening several days earlier. And when he got back, he said, it's great. The beginning is incredible. There's some slow part, and then it picks up and it's incredible again. And so, as you said, when you're sitting there with your mouth open, I'm sitting there saying, all right, when are we going to get to the slow part? Where's this? Okay. And it's like, I'm 3/4 into the movie. It's like, that was like that 5 minutes, that night scene, which was the most beautiful scene in movies. The cinematography of that blue sky and the starry night. Is that what he called the slow part? Well, I'll take that.
What about that storm? Remember the storm with the fire? Things are exploding and you have tornadoes that are sucking fire and people are just being
That was
blown.
like a bigger throwback too. I believe it was Thunderdome because Max gets sent to the desert in Thunderdome and there's a sandstorm and they're like saving each other from the pit, the sand pit or the quicksand or whatever it was, so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, it never let me down. And to me, at this moment, it's the best movie of the year. I don't know what people expected from Ultron, but, Ultron is a fun movie, but this is like a huge budget art film, this Max. You know what I mean? It's beautiful to look at, and it's fun to watch.
My only complaint, I would say, is that I thought that the very, very, very end of the movie kind of wrapped itself up a little too
abrupt. Yeah.
Too abrupt and too conveniently neat. Them coming in there and sort of being hailed as heroes, sort of. You don't know what's going to happen.
I feel the people were looking for a hero, somebody to save them and
to overthrow the baddie.
Better.
Yeah.
Max would have been welcome as part of it, but he's not that kind of guy. And I think it was good that it was Furiosa because she's already respected by these people. So it was perfect that it was her and, the people with her,
Right. I agree with you completely what you said before. And I mentioned this, I remember I mentioned this to you. I said, if this is the best movie of the year, if this is better than Star Wars, I am perfectly happy with it.
I think it might be.
Because Star Wars has a very difficult job to do, and I hope they do it.
Yeah, it can't be everything to everybody. We've been through this before.
Don't get me wrong. I hope they do it.
Yeah.
But this was kind of like, if you remember, when Phantom Menace came out, and everybody thought that was going to be the thing that was going to clean everything up. But a few weeks before Phantom Menace, The Matrix came out, and it was like, holy crap, this is actually original. This is actually different.
Also, that same year that blew everybody away was a low-budget horror movie, The Blair Witch Project. And so that was another one a nothing movie that nobody expected. So, yeah, this is going to be, it's not going to be the highest budget movie of the year, Fury Road, but it's definitely going to be, respected when push comes to shove at the end.
Yeah, I really hope that, in spite of the box office, because we're at a stage now where a movie will be number 1 for a week, 2 if you're lucky, and then next, there's just so much stuff coming out, you can't keep up with it. And I hope that the fact that this movie wasn't number 1 won't hurt it, if it comes to actually making sequels. I can't wait.
Yeah, I know people that are still going to see it this weekend for the first time, so it's still luring people in.
If somebody hasn't seen it that I know and I was with them, I would say, sure, I'll go with you. I'll go see it again. Absolutely. I would love to see this movie again. And like I said, hopefully they'll come around and make more. And I can't wait for the DVD eventually that they'll put out, the Blu-ray, because I'm just as interested in seeing more of the movie than I want to see all the making ofs. I want to see all the how the hell they got this thing the way it is. It is just incredible.
Here's a funny little side thing when you mentioned the DVD. I read that George Miller wants to put out, as part of the DVD, a black and white version. To me, I don't necessarily think that, and thinking about it, that's necessary. I'm wondering what he's thinking, like why that would be something that he would want, because it doesn't need color. I mean, we were just talking about how we were impressed by the colors. What do you think that does by not having any colors at all? And it's just a simple
I don't know.
stark.
I have to find that article. I think I might have stumbled into it too. It must be something like art related, something about how you don't need the colors or something like that. I have to look it up.
Yeah, I'm a fan of black and white movies. I just don't feel that particular situation is necessary in my point of view. That's not to say I won't watch it. I'll check it out.
Right.
But he's the director. If that's what he wants us to see, I'll give it a shot. But I'm happy with what I have.
And from a merchandising standpoint, this is a very low, at least at first, a very low merchandisable film in terms of, I know there's an art book that I purchased. I haven't read it yet. I know that, like you mentioned, there might be a novel or a comic coming or a combination of both pretty soon too.
I've seen a website where fans there really isn't anything out there, and fans have made Lego versions of the cars, of the vehicles. Now, I don't think they'll ever be made really by Lego, but they were really cool looking to see people put them together that way.
Yes, they were.
Maybe they could put out some Hot Wheels. I think they would have done it already. It would have been nice to put out, a Hot Wheel of at least Max's car, maybe some stuff. But those vehicles, there's a lot going on those vehicles. So I really don't even think Hot Wheels could put them out without having, make them $20-$30 each.
And the amount of detail they would have to put in, because these things have all these spikes and armaments.
And that's funny, too. You mentioned the vehicles were characters. The vehicles, like that one group of people had the spiked ones. It's almost like they're the sand people. And then this other group, the other group had the motorcycles and the BMX style bike.
Yep.
And then the other ones had the trucks with cars built into the trucks. And that was a crazy group that really, there was the heavyset guy, and he's like Jabba. I think he was the head of Gastown, and he strikes me as the Jabba type of character. So there is a lot.
That's the thing. They were able to create all these different tribes. It's like, I wanted to learn more about all these other different tribes that are out there.
And they're clearly separate, but they all interact in this economy. They all have, we'll do this if you can do that. And like the one group will give her passage if they'll give her the fuel, and give them the fuel and stuff.
Right.
And
Right. So overall, I think we couldn't be any more in agreement how much we actually enjoy this film.
Yeah, and it doesn't really happen all the time that we are so, enamored.
And again, compared to like all these earlier films that have come out already, I saw Fast and Furious, I saw Ultron, I seen these movies, and this kind of puts them all to shame. It's like, holy crap. And for it not being a completely 100% original story, this is, I know it's vague whether it's a reboot or a remake or a reimagining. I don't know where it falls because I know they're being purposely vague about it. But as far as I'm concerned, it completely succeeded in what it wanted to do. Yeah.
And I feel this is the same Max. It's very easy for me to accept that this is just another adventure down the line.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank James, first of all, for joining me today to going over this wonderful film for the year that we've seen. And I want to thank you guys, as usual, for listening. And we will see you soon here at GeekFest Rants. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
In this wasteland, I am the one who runs from both the living and the dead. A man reduced to a single instinct. Survive.
It is by my hand! You arise! From the ashes of this world!
We are not things! We are not things!
Where is she taking them? I want them back! They're my property! Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Want to get through this? Let's go!
As the world fell, each of us in our own way was broken. It was hard to know who was more crazy. Me or everyone else.
And you know what artsy is code for?
Naked.